Hello, my name is Alana, and thank you for joining us for our happy hour tour. I hope you enjoyed the video that was just playing. I wish I had all the ingredients on hand to make that because that looked really good, right? The double lime as the garnish looked really fancy, but also would be really tasty, right? So thank you everyone who's joining us in on Zoom. If you want to open up the chat so then we can stay involved as we're doing our session together. And if you're on Facebook Live, you can also join in and comment and chat on there too. And we'll make sure to put it in the Zoom so then we can keep in contact with each other. We also have a poll going up in progress. So answer that when you get the chance so then we can get some feedback on how our events are going. And since you have the chat up and you're joining in with us, if you want to put your name, you can put your pronouns, you can put where you're coming from, where you're joining us in tonight, so then we can get to know each other a little bit more. And now you get to know me. My name is Allana Nagy. I am the K12 Interpretive Fellow here at the Rollins Museum of Art. So that means I am involved in our education department, and I do the planning of the K12 and family educational activities. So while we're getting settled in, let me get settled in and I will start putting up my presentation. Ella, I see you in the chat. Thank you for joining in and hello. So let me share my screen. All right, there we go. So to start us off for tonight, we are looking at this artwork by American artist Philip-Lorca DiCorcia, who is an American-born artist born in 1951. And if anyone has any comments they want to put in the chat of what they think about it before I start delving into it, you can. So this artwork, as I said, was by Philip-Lorca DiCorcia. He is an American artist born in 1951 in Hartford, Connecticut, so a New Englander upstate. He attended the School of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston and then received his MFA from Yale in 1979. So this artwork, titled W September 2000, number 6, is one artwork of a series of 11 created for W magazine. That's why it's titled W. Between 1996 and 2008. So this was part of a series called Stranger in Paradise. So like I said, if anyone wants to put in anything of their own thoughts as I'm speaking or before I start to speak, go ahead and join in. What we can first do together is kind of look at the image itself. We can see the people in it and we can analyze it. So we see two women. One is older, she has white hair, she's dressed pretty nice, right? She has her scarf and her pearls on. And then we have another woman on the right who has her hair in a nice updo. She's also dressed very nice, conservative. And then we have a younger man sitting at the table between the two of them. And this is kind of an odd duo, right? We don't really know what they're doing there together, but we see that they're together. We can see that they're eating a meal. They have wine and they have beer at the table, and two of them are laughing. Are they really laughing though? That's kind of the question. They are not really looking at each other. They're laughing, they're smiling, but they're not really making that like eye contact with each other that can kind of solidify that what they're talking about is actually good. It's kind of like when someone makes a joke and you laugh at it, but it really wasn't that funny. So then you're just kind of like, haha. This kind of looks like what's going on between the two of them, right? They're not really engaged with each other, but they're sitting at the same table. So that's the two, the middle and the left. We also have the woman on the right with her blonde hair, and she's at the table, but she's not really with them, right? So we have this possible conversation going on between those two, but she's not even looking at them. They're not looking at each other, and she's not looking at them. She's looking at us, right? We're the viewer. She's viewing us. She's kind of stepping out of that fourth dimension, kind of breaking the wall and joining with the viewer rather than actually staying in the photograph itself. So what can we determine from that? If anyone has a hunch of what they think is going on within this conversation, this meal conversation, you can put it down in and we can discuss it together. I can feel like we've all kind of been in this situation, you know, where you're at a dinner with other people, especially since we just had Thanksgiving, right? You probably saw some family members that you haven't seen in a while and you were like, oh, it's good to see them again. And then you're like, was it really so good to see them again? You know, you were probably sitting at the table laughing at that not funny joke and maybe spacing off just like our woman on the right. And even though we say she's spacing off, she's looking at us, she is still kind of engaged with our situation, right? You can see her hand is resting on the table, so she still kind of has that physical connection to what's going on in the scene, but kind of mentally, she is focused on us rather than her colleagues at her table. So we can kind of go into the meaning behind this artwork. So it's kind of a narrative mixture of truth and fiction. DiCorcia's artwork is very heavily on that. It's often called cinematic because of his use of carefully placed lighting and framing, which kind of results in this very stage photography. So this looks like it could be like a still from a movie, right? This is a scene, something's going to happen, we're invading on it. It's not like the kind of normal photography, what people see is like, this is something happening. This is like very highly edited. Their clothing was picked out for a purpose. The lighting, the placement, the setting, everything is very, 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 very crafted to the point where this kind of looks like movie set, like it's fake. So if we look at our title again, we learned that the W stands for W Magazine, and the September 2000 means that's the issue of the magazine that it came out in. And then number 6 is the series of these 11 photographs for this series. So if you don't really know what W Magazine is, it is an American fashion magazine, which features stories about style through the lens of culture, fashion, art, celebrities, film. The front cover for this issue of September 2000 had a big picture of Kate Moss on the front. So that can really bring it back to 2000, you know, where like she was the big symbol of what's going on at that time. She's supposed to be the very fashion forward person, the big celebrity. And then you open this magazine and you see this kind of editorial fashion art photography shot going on, right? We have 2 older women and a young man dressed in a suit, dressed very conservative, which is kind of interesting for that very 2000s, like Kate Moss trying to have the like sex symbol as the front cover, and then you kind of have this more conservative, questionable story going on within the magazine itself. And like I said, this is a fashion editorial. It's the year 2000, right? It's the new millennium. Do these women look like they're dressed super like fashion forward, bringing in the new millennium? Not really, right? But they are dressed very expensive, and definitely something that the people of this magazine would be looking for, although it's not the normal target of what would be within W Magazine. So this is part of a series. It's number 6 of a series of 11. The series has the same people within it. These are all hired actors, which kind of plays into that feeling of this being fake and kind of cinematic, because these are hired actors. They're models, they're actors, they're here for a situation to play a fake character, an extension of themselves. So this isn't a real scene that's going on. It's something that's very much put together as a person. But they're all part of one story. This one is number 6. The photographs themselves kind of do tell a story. It's not a very cohesive, like a movie start to finish type story. It's that very open-ended type feeling that DiCorcia has going on within his photography. And it was also kind of spaced out over time, right? I said that this series was done between 97 and 2008. So we had a big span of time going on between these characters and other ones that he also had within his series of going on within W Magazine, because he had a whole contract with W Magazine. And his earlier work often connected back to feelings of the city, of people in the city. Hustlers was his very first collection, and that focused a lot on people within the city, kind of the dark streets of New York, which is a pretty big contrast between this photograph, right? These are very high-end, high-class people for a pretty fashion-forward of the Times magazine. And we have them eating what probably is a pretty expensive meal, right? So he does keep a lot of those same themes within his artwork of using hired actors, but he kind of elevated his settings as he went on within his art career. So while we're looking at settings, we can move into where they are in this photograph. So we can see we have them in a building. They're at a pretty nice table. They have huge windows behind them. And we can see another building in the background and what looks like a rooftop, like lookout area. Does anyone have any guesses of where this could be? If you're a New Yorker, you would probably know where this is. And as I said, DiCorcia is from Hartford, Connecticut, so New York is very much his home. So if you have any guesses as to where this could be, chime in. In chat, Ella says Twin Towers, and you are correct. Yes, this is the Twin Towers, a very, very notable place, right? So what they're in is one of the towers, and then what we're looking at through the window itself is the other tower. So we're able to get that inside shot and kind of look into their lives, right? But we're also seeing outside to what the other people are seeing. They are in this very fancy, high-class setting versus the people on the outside who are on the rooftops, kind of looking down and even looking in to the situation that we have going on. So this is the Twin Towers. They are at a restaurant called Windows of the World, which is very fitting because they have those huge windows behind them, right? It was a restaurant in the World Trade Center. And before the unfortunate events of September 11th, 2001, it was known as a place for powerful business meetings, like social breakfasts and celebratory meals. So it was really a place of like cultural meeting, which was the point of the Twin Towers, right? Looking back on it, we have a very different viewpoint of this. We kind of see the tragedy that went on. We know the history of what's going to happen to the setting, but this is September 2000. This is almost a year before this happened. And these people have no clue what's going to happen to them, right? It's pretty amazing the difference a year can be between settings. So we're kind of seeing this snapshot of these people in a fake setting, and we're kind of projecting our own feelings and our own thoughts of what's going to happen to them, and they don't even know it. So I chose this artwork for our winter reflection or winter rewind because of the kind of questionable dynamics between our subjects. Like I said, it kind of made me think of the holidays coming up and Thanksgiving that just passed. During this time, family and friends, we gather together to eat, we spend quality time together, and we have our own traditions of what and how we celebrate, right? So if you have any interesting family celebrations or things that you do with your friends or your loved ones, if you have like a Friendsgiving, or if you do some kind of present exchange or like a specific tradition you do with people and you want to share it in the chat, you can do it. I'll share that on Christmas Eve, my family always has Italian food. We either make it or we'll go out and have Italian food. And this is very much because my family is from the Hartford, Connecticut, New York, Queens, New York area. So it's the very heavy Italian type, upstate type of mentality. And then we always go look at Christmas lights together. So even though this is kind of like, it's not a family setting, we don't really know what this setting is, right? To me, I did kind of see that and it made me think of my family and things that we would do together at the end of the year to kind of reflect on how things are going. And we can also kind of reflect on how they're together, but they're also not really together, right? Our woman on the right is looking at us rather than being with the people that she's with. So we can kind of think of 2021 and how the world has been going since the pandemic started. We're starting to eat in restaurants again. Some people are, some people aren't. It's all depending on our own level of comfort. We're able to see our family that we haven't seen in a long time, but there's still kind of this feeling of like anxiety of being in places, not sure if it's like safe or not, and knowing that we're still not like completely out of the woods yet. And I do kind of connect to this woman on the right, which is why I chose this artwork, that she's there, but she's not really there. It makes me think of how much we've been through the past, can you believe it? It's been like 2 years now with COVID, and how thankful I am to be around my family, even if I'm not completely involved in the conversation that's going on. So this, to close up with this artwork, this photograph doesn't really have any one particular story or meaning behind it. DiCorcia likes to keep his artworks open-ended so the viewer can make their own stories and connections, just like I did, right? It made me think of the holidays that are coming up and everything that's happened within the past year. So if you have any thoughts on this artwork and how it speaks to you and how it connects to you, you can put it in the chat. And keep in mind that there's no right or wrong answers to that because DiCorcia keeps his artwork very open. So feel free to share with everyone. So as we're thinking of our responses to the last one, we can get started with our next one. So this is called Imogene. It was made in 2013 by British-born artist Julian Opie. And it is a computer animation video. So Julian Opie is a British contemporary artist born in London in 1958. He graduated from Goldsmiths School of Art in London in 1982, and he currently lives and works in London. He works in painting, drawing, sculpture, computer animation videos like this one, and film. So before I get started in analyzing this artwork, if anything speaks out to you and you want to put it in the chat, you can feel free to. Also, feel free to take a break and have your drink if you made it, if you did the one from our video at the beginning, or if you made your own at home. So this is a portrait of a girl named Imogene, which is why it is named Imogene, right? We can see that she kind of has a tan brown complexion. She has brown eyes and she has brown hair pulled back. We can't see really every feature of her face because of this extremely graphic style of the artwork, but there's enough within it that she looks like somebody you could actually know, right? She looks very computer animated, but if you saw this picture, you could probably think of somebody that you know who kind of looks like this, right? She's not super distinctive of anybody in particular, but she's realistic enough. And then we have the very soft pink background to contrast with her and the very thick black line that surrounds the entirety of her face. So Julian Opie is known for his highly stylized works that reduce portraits to thick black outlines in areas of solid flat color. So this is a very good representation of his artwork because it really does kind of have all of those qualities. This is a slightly more detailed than some of his artwork. Sometimes his works resemble those of street signs, such as things from crosswalk symbols and restroom symbols. They can be very, very, very minimalist, or they can be kind of more detailed like this one, who actually looks like a real person. He draws inspiration from classical portraiture, Japanese woodblock prints, public signage, like I just said, informational boards, and traffic signs. He describes his work as a connection of the clean visual language of modern life with the fundamentals of art history. Very pronounced statement, right? If you have any thoughts about this artwork, you can put it in based off of those things that I just said inspire him. But we can kind of see these little bits of things, right? We can see the very graphic lines of the outline of the face, just like you would see with a street sign. And we can also kind of see the use of classical portraiture. So this artwork is closely cropped, right? We can see her right to her neck, to the top of her head. Even her head is getting a little bit cut off from the frame itself, which is very much reminiscent of a classical bust of a person. If you see one of those marble sculptures of the bust, it's like right to the neckline, to the top of the head. And we're having that same thing, but it's in this very technological fast forward computer animation video. And a much, much more minimalistic style, right? So Opie is also inspired by pop art. So we can think of pop art icons like Andy Warhol and his use of portraiture, where it's turned down to that very minimalistic, if we think of the Marilyn Monroe one, or even soup cans and the Brillo pads, it's the silk screen, minimalistic colors like this, right? We have minimalistic colors, we have maybe 5 at the most, but we can tell what our subject is and who it would be, even though it's very reduced down into something very graphic. So I chose this artwork for our winter rewind because it makes me think of the format in which we're hosting this, which is Zoom. So if we look at where Imogen is at the Alfond Inn, this is it up on display. She is normally, if you're on the first floor, when you walk in, you can see kind of over here, this is where you walk in for the restaurant. If you make a right and you see the bar, which was the bar that we had in the video playing, making our specialty drink of the night, right across from that, we have this artwork of Imogen. And since it is a computer animation video, it's on a screen. And so we have the actual video screen there, and we have Imogen up on display. And it's an ongoing, continuous video of the woman that we saw in the first picture. She's very straight-faced, kind of that Mona Lisa smile where you can't really tell if she's smiling or if she's frowning. She's kind of giving you that neutral face. And then every once in a while, as you sit in and watch the video, you can see, as within this picture, she kind of gives a very like slight smile, and it just happens very, very fast, which is really interesting in this location because that's kind of bringing us in to this social situation, right? We're here together, we're drinking, we have another person with us, and we're engaging socially. And right now we're also doing that, but we're kind of doing that in this digital format, right? And Imogen herself is digital. So if you were there in the Alfond Inn, it wouldn't really be all that too far from how we're doing this right now, right? You'd still have that kind of virtual counterpart to join you within your drink, whether it be online in this digital format or in person, still with a digital format, right? I can see, you guys can see my face, I can't see yours, just like Imogen can see, you can see her faces, but she can't really see yours. But we're kind of making do with this digital format, right? It can be kind of hard to translate some things into this Zoom setting, but because of this, we've had the opportunity to gather with a lot of new people and create new experiences together. Some of you might be coming from faraway places, or this doesn't really work with your time schedule, but it's so much easier to join us in on Zoom. So it's really nice that Imogen is kind of this symbol of the present, right? We're virtual, but we're still together just like she is. And if you have any thoughts on Imogen, you can put it in the chat. I would really highly suggest to go to the Alfond Inn if you have the opportunity to go and see her. If you can see in this image, there's 2 people, they're sitting on a couch right in front of her. So I would really suggest go getting that special drink that we had for tonight and spending some time there and looking at Imogen and maybe have a imaginary conversation with her. And if you have any last thoughts for Imogen, you can put it in the chat, while we move on to our next subject. So I'm going to give you a second to kind of look at this artwork and read our information before I explain it. And if you want to talk anything or write down anything that you think, your thoughts, your opinions on this artwork, you can do that at this time as well. So this is an artwork by American artist Jack Whitten. Jack Whitten was born in Alabama in 1939. He attended Tuskegee University as a pre-medical student and an ROTC cadet. But he later transferred to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana to study art. So he kind of went from two very different broad subjects of study, right? But they can kind of intermingle with each other, right? So while he was at the Southern University in Baton Rouge, he became involved in the civil rights movement and eventually then went further to Cooper Union in New York and graduated with his BFA in 1964. So he started off as this ROTC pre-med student and then kind of went opposite end of the spectrum into getting his BFA. So as we can see with the title, that is E-Stamp number 4, 5 Spirals for Our Loving. What can we think is the meaning of an E-Stamp? Let's analyze this artwork and maybe come up with an idea for it. And you can put your idea of the meaning of an E-Stamp within the chat if you want. So the meaning of an E-Stamp is it's a digital postage that can be downloaded and printed directly from the internet. So exactly what it says, right? E, internet, we see the symbol E or I a lot of the times when it is in terms of something on the internet. And then we have stamp, postage stamp, right? It's a form of sending something. So this is an electronical stamp. It's a form of sending information, but this isn't electronic. It is an acrylic on canvas artwork, but it's still kind of using that mindset of it being digital. So if we look at this artwork itself, you can kind of see that in the sense that this kind of looks like a digital pixel scene, right? If you've ever seen those QR codes, sometimes on your TV, you'll have a commercial that says, scan this QR code to go to the website, or a lot of times within this past year, because of COVID, a lot of restaurants ditched having menus out on display and instead had a little stand on their table that had that QR code that you would then scan with your phone, and you could pull it up in a way that you didn't have to be touching things all the time. So that's kind of one of the reasons why that I picked this artwork, because it kind of made me think of that situation we've been within the past year, 2 years, you know. But what else can we see within this artwork? We can see a grid kind of going on, separating this into 4 different sections. We can see the colors blue and green and yellow, orange, and white. And then we can see these kind of big spiral motions, hence the name 5 Spirals. but we also see 5 spirals for Al Loving. But we know our artist's name is Jack Whitten. So Al Loving is a different artist. Yes, we'll go to this one. So here's Al Loving, one of his artworks off to the left. He was a prominent African-American artist known for his abstract paintings and collages that explored really vibrant juxtapositions of color, space, line, and form. And we can see this within this artwork. And this artwork on the left is on display right now at the Rollins Museum of Art in the American Modernisms exhibit. And this one on the right for Whitten is on display at the Alfond. So you can go to both locations and see both of them. But Whitten and Loving were in the same circle of abstract painters who explored new materials and processes. So this E-stamp is for our artist, Al Loving. And for Whitten, the E-stamps provide kind of like a ready-made structural device for these people. And it kind of goes back to those commemorative stamps. If you've ever seen one before, you probably have, and you might not have known what it is. If you have ever seen one, comment the ones that you've seen. There's been some really crazy ones I've seen online. There's big collectors ones. If you're a stamp collector, you know, ones like the very first moon landing are pretty valuable. And then there's ones like Elvis that you see all the time that aren't really worth anything. But this is kind of playing off of that sense of something commemorative and something as a message as being a stamp and being a symbol of this person who has passed away. So if we go back to these little digital pixels, right? I said they kind of reminded me of the QR codes and the little digital pixels. These are called tesserae. So they are actually dried paint chips that the artist creates. Because remember, this is acrylic on canvas. It looks like a mosaic, right? You would think that these are little ceramic tiles, but no, these are dried acrylic. So our artist Whitten takes acrylic and puts it in the slabs and lets it dry, and then he chops it up into these shapes for his little pixels, right? And these kind of represent individual bytes of information. And as we look at it all together, each one of these little informational images, pixels, gigabytes, whatever you want to call it, tesserae, it represents Jack Whitten as giving a commemorative representation to his dear friend and fellow colleague of the abstract group, Al Loving. So to finalize this artwork, for Whitten, art is not only a means of exploring mediums and materials, but it's also a way to remember the past while reflecting on the often tragic present. This artwork makes me think of the loved ones we have lost throughout the past 2 years, whether it be of COVID or of natural causes or just things that have been going on. It's kind of the end of the year, and this is kind of when you take the time to reflect on those that are missing, who are no longer with you and you're not celebrating the holidays with. This was a way for Jack Whitten to memorialize a very good friend of his in a very cathartic way, which is what art is for many, many people, is being able to express what they're feeling within this way. And we often think that as it comes to the end of the year. And Whitten states that his creations are ways of acknowledging the spirit and energy of people. He takes the material and presents it in a way that these spirits are still alive. So we're seeing this kind of still artwork, although it kind of has movement within these spirals, right? That kind of reminiscent of Al Whitten and his own artwork. We're seeing the energy, the spirit of this person within the artwork, even though they are no longer with us. So let's move on to our next artwork as we reflect on the one we just talked about. You can take a moment to kind of think about that one. If you want to put any comments about Whitten into our chat, you can. And if you want to take a moment to look at this one by David Benjamin Sherry, you can put that in as well. So we can see a little bit within our information here on the right. This is David Benjamin Sherry, who is a New Mexico-based American photographer. He received his BFA in photography from the Rhode Island School of Design, RISD, right, in 2003, and his MFA in photography from Yale in 2007. Sherry's work often consists of primary, colorful, large image format film photography, focusing on the landscape, portraiture, environmentalism, and queer identity. So if you have any comments on what you see going on within this picture, or your own thoughts of it, whether you like it or you dislike it, you can put it in the chat for us to discuss about. The title of this artwork is Above Abyss, Blue Below, Point Reyes, California. So this kind of describes where it is. This photograph was taken in Point Reyes, California. We see this great big blue ocean with the white blinding light of the sun far off on the horizon. And it's a little bit hard to see here, but if you look very closely in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see a small road and a lighthouse with the rocks kind of on the edge. It's a lighthouse on the edge of a cliff. So what does the color blue make you think of? This is the very big prominent thing within this artwork. You can share it in the chat of what the color blue makes you think of. So the color blue can kind of mean different things for different people. It can be calming, it can be peaceful, but it can also kind of represent sadness, right? There's the phrase feeling blue when you're feeling down. So does this artwork make you feel calm and peaceful, or does it make you feel sadness? And this is kind of an open-ended artwork too, kind of like our first artist, where there's no right or wrong to this. So if you feel either way, that is personally up to you and your opinion is valid. A lot of times people find nature to be very relaxing, but what if something were to happen to it? And that's what Sherry really explores within his photography. He focused a lot on the West and Southwestern United States. So this is in California. And Sherry states that he was impacted by an interview with writer Elizabeth Colbert and her book, The Sixth Extinction, An Unnatural History. So that kind of talks about the effects of climate change and destructive weather. He says after he listened to that and he read her book, he felt determined and driven to use his camera to capture these moments in time of certain places as to preserve them, because we have a undetermined future and these places may change over time. So he's kind of giving this literal snapshot in time and overlaying it with color to invoke a new feeling with the viewer. So we kind of delved into that blue can make you feel calm and peaceful, but it can also make you feel sadness, right? So this could be an ocean that is filled with tranquility and peacefulness right now that we're looking at it at this moment in time, but it could also be something of sadness if we're thinking about what the future holds for it. So he uses his camera as a tool for documenting change. He sometimes takes a photo of the same place many years apart to tell the difference between them. So this is right now this was in 2015, so it might look different now. If we go forward to 20 years, it might look super, super different. This is Point Reyes, California, which is a very popular tourist destination. It's pretty close to San Francisco. And it also lands on the San Andreas Fault. So that's kind of that big earthquake fault within California, and California is very prone to earthquakes. So if he's capturing this moment in time, how it looks like right now, if we were to have an earthquake within the next year that maybe broke that San Andreas Fault and this whole edge of the coastline was gone, it would look really, really different, right? So he's using his photography to capture this moment in time in case anything happens in the future. And his artwork is very reminiscent of Ansel Adams. He uses him as one of his biggest inspirations. He kind of uses that same wide figurative landscape photography. He is so inspired by him that he even uses the same type of old school large format camera, the big 8x10 still shot camera. He goes very old school with it. He develops his own film in the dark room, but instead of doing everything monotone in the gray, black, and white like Ansel Adams here on the right, he does everything in color. So we have this big blue wash of color versus his very big black and white landscape, but he has his roots in this very tradition of wide landscape photography. And you can kind of see some similarities between these two examples. We have a big ocean scape. This is Timber Cove, which is also in California. So kind of even taking photographs of the same type of place within the area. And I chose this artwork for our winter rewind because I feel like it is a very good reflective piece. We've kind of talked about things that I personally thought of the holidays. I've thought of 2021 and COVID and how things have changed so much within the past year and how we kind of went this downward place and now we're seeing loved ones again. We're going out and doing things. We're still socializing, whether it be in person or in virtual. And this piece is set in California, and it makes me think of the hard year that California really has, right? They've had devastating wildfires going on there, and Hurricane Ida hit as well. It tormented the Caribbean. And it really makes me think of those places before they got hit. Like, this is a very still screenshot of California. And if we think about how California might look now because of those wildfires, it'd probably look really different, right? So it's a good thing that we have these artists and these people who make it a point to capture these images in time. And while this can be very depressing, right? And most people have had a hard year, or they might have had a better year than the past. We can also take this as a hope for the future. We have this artwork that has a vast surrounding in front of us. We have the big blue waters who look a little bit choppy, which might be pretty reflective of some of our year. I know my year has been very choppy, where I've had some really great points and I've had some really low points. But in the distance, we have this big glowing horizon. We have this big white light of the sun that's kind of welcoming us into the future. So while things might be pretty rough right now, we know that we're kind of getting out of this situation. We have something very much to be hopeful for. And as we get to the end of the year, I know I'm very thankful and I'm very hopeful for how things are going. And it kind of makes me think of this quote. It's by the amazing American poet Maya Angelou, which states, "The horizon leans forward, offering you the space to place new steps of change." So we are responsible for our own future and the future of our environment and our society. So let's look forward to that horizon, whether it be the calm, tranquil blue as this photograph, and we can welcome in the new year together. So if anyone has any thoughts on this artwork, you can put it in our chat. We can talk about it. If you have any questions to ask me about any of these artworks, please feel free to. And remember to answer the poll that we had going up around 2. And I just want to thank everyone for coming to tonight's event. All of the artwork that you saw is up on display at the Alfond Inn, which is completely free to go to. Very lovely, it has a very nice bar. And then the Al Loving artwork is up on display at the Rollins Museum of Art itself, which is also a free place to go to. And please visit them, have some fun. You can see me there in the museum. And any final thoughts?